Hey class, Tim Carey here today. Hope all is well with everyone. We're going to start today with something that's truly not in your PowerPoints. We're just going to discuss for a second what is public policy. Your book defines it. The definition is a little intense for me. Read it to you briefly. For the purposes of the book, policy is defined as a relatively stable purposized course of action followed by an actor or a set of actors in dealing with a problem or a matter of concern. This definition focuses on what is actually done instead of what is only proposed or intended. Great definition. Definitely talks about public policy or policy as a whole there. But I want to go in a little different direction. I think this one's a little more easier to understand, and for purposes of this class, I believe it is an excellent definition. So public policy refers to the decisions, rules, and regulations produced by the government. Public policy can be defined simply as a purpose or goal expressed by the government that is backed by a sanction, a reward, or punishment. Public policy can be a law, a rule, a regulation, or an order. It can include a law passed by Congress, a presidential directive, a Supreme Court ruling, or a rule issued by an administrative agency, for example, the FDA. So let's take that for a second and go through it briefly. So one area that may be a little confusing is when we go back and talk about federalism. This definition is talking strictly about the federal government, okay? By the rules of Congress, made by Congress, laws, presidential directives, Supreme Court rulings. We know that that also takes place at the state level. We have a governor, executive, you have a state house, state senate, the legislature, they're passing rules and regulations. Pennsylvania has a state Supreme Court. They make rulings on state laws. And we have administrative agencies, Department of Human Services in the city of Philadelphia, if we're going local. In the state of Pennsylvania, the Department of Education is an agency. So they make administrative rules. So keep this in mind, all right, when you're thinking about it. All right, so there's the federalism comes into play here. Even though our definition is talking specifically about the federal government, it also breaks down easily into the state governments and most local governments. Okay, so again, I'm going to read it one more time so that we have an understanding. Public policy refers to the decisions, rules, and regulations produced by the government. Public policy can be defined simply as a purpose or goal expressed by the government that is backed by a sanction, a reward, or punishment. Public policy can be a law, a rule, a regulation, or an order. It can include a law passed by Congress, presidential directive, Supreme Court ruling, or a rule issued by an administrative agency. This comes from Lowy's book, Lowi, and I think it works perfectly here. So that's public policy. So some public policies are also social policies. So they're important because they promote a range of public goals found in public policy. So social policy, the goal is for the government to implement rules to promote things for the public good. Okay. So there's tools for making policy as techniques of control. All right. So again, tools for making policy are techniques of control. So there's promotional ones. Think about when you're doing your tax forms, okay? And a few years ago, I remember we had windows put in our house, and I went and talked to the accountant, and the accountant said, oh, well, the government's, promoting or pushing. They have a promotional piece this year that if you do anything energy efficient for your home, there's a tax write-off, okay? So that's, creating a grant or a subsidy for, hey, for a person to get work done on their house to make it more energy efficient, the government's going to give, a tax write-off. So some promotional goals or subsidies and grants. Hey, a promotional. We want all the state of Pennsylvania residents or state of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, state of Delaware, New Jersey. We want all of our kids to go to college. That's great. So they have state grants. Pennsylvania has a Pennsylvania state grant. Now, it's important to keep this in mind. Think about this. The goal is to keep that money and keep those students in your state. So Pennsylvania and New Jersey our state grants don't cross the bridges. Okay, say it that way. So if you're a New Jersey resident, and you qualify for a New Jersey state grant based on your income, and you come to school in Pennsylvania, that grant doesn't come over with you. So if you stayed in New Jersey and say went to Rowan, it would stay. Pennsylvania resident, it's like $4,600, pretty good chunk of change. You stay in Pennsylvania, you go to Widener, yay, you get the $4,600. You go across that bridge and you go to Stockton State, you don't get that money. Okay, so that's important, you know. So what's the goal there? Keep your students in state, number one, and once they graduate, hope they stay here. You want to have a well-educated citizenry. So, you know, when you graduate, don't leave Pennsylvania, or if you're not in Pennsylvania, come back. There's regulatory, criminal. So in a regulatory setting, if you, from a regulatory standpoint, drinking and driving, it's against the law, it's criminal behavior. We're going to regulate that, because if you're drinking and driving, you can hurt yourself or others. Very simple and easy. Civil. So you can sue somebody civilly. I slipped on your pavement. You didn't shovel it. You didn't do what your need was. So I can have a civil suit against you. There's administrative regulations. All right, administrative regulations, something in the nature of. Let me think of one that's good. It's easy to understand. We're going to get to one about agriculture in a few minutes, so I'll wait on that one. Some of the other ones, you can regulatory, taxes. There's also redistributive. All right. And redistributive policies of control would be taxes, budgeting and spending through subsidies and taxes, fiscal use of credit and interest. We'll talk about that again in a second too. So look at this, 3 areas. We just talked about them, okay? Tools for making policies as techniques for control: promotional, regulatory, redistributive. Okay, those are the 3 we're going to focus on. Now we have fiscal policy. So we're moving away. Now we're going to look at the fiscal policy. What is a fiscal policy? So everybody who runs for office is going to talk about their fiscal policy. The government's use of taxing, monetary, and spending powers to manipulate the economy. A few years ago, what was it? The housing bubble burst, and we had a lot of problems, and they had a buyout. I mean, not a buyout. They gave money to the banks to bail them out. I'm sorry, bailout. To keep the economy moving, keep it growing, so it doesn't stagnate and go from a recession even further and worse. Make us move through the recession quicker. So that's government spending. We take taxes and move it through. Monetary policy allows governments to regulate the economy through the manipulation of the supply of money as credit. Okay, so if the government, has a say in, rules and regulations and who you can give credit to, okay, and what companies the government will give credit to. So you want to keep that in mind. So there's fiscal policy, which we talked about, and monetary policy. And perhaps the most important redistributive policy is the spending power, which is a combination of subsidies and contracts. All right, so let's look at a regulatory policy. One that's pretty simple. Agriculture. Way back when, a farmer grows what they want and they sell it. Well, the government came in and said, whoa, wait a second. We'll pay you to, only grow corn, and then only grow so much corn. Or grow whatever, just whatever you want to use here. The government comes in, gives you money, and says, hey, listen, just do this. This is all we want you to do. This amount, and, farmers, this is guaranteed money. Why am I going to turn it away? So a lot of them jumped on board with it. A lot of people jumped on board with it. It's government spending to influence what is being distributed in the country. Again, supply and demand. We gotta monitor this. And that happens every day, with our farming community. So keep that in mind again when you are looking at some of the policies. That snail darter case that you guys are working on, due I think tomorrow or Wednesday. I didn't get a chance. I saw that a few emails came through with or uploads of the assignment. Just remember, the 3 points that are in the initial email are what I want you to answer. The macro versus micro political realm, as well as some of the other small questions that are in the write-up. So if you don't mind, get that to me by Wednesday. I hope all is well. I hope to post another PowerPoint later this week and get a couple more online little YouTube videos up for you on some of this stuff. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, always feel free to email me at tjcarey@mail.widener.edu, or if it's on the weekends, my personal email, timmy35352000 at yahoo.com. Again, have a great week. Hope to talk to you soon. Bye.